That's my pleasure. My name is Peter Lucis. I'm from the Green Energy team. That's part of the Information and Technology Management Unit here in Copenhagen from United Nations Development Program. And with me today also is Paula Martinez and Shatiso Nyati. And just why we are here for this seminar. So we really wanted to give from our side like experience that we have gained in e-mobility and give a bit of technical introduction of different type of electric vehicles that are out there, but also show you the process we have adapted for the implementation of e-mobility projects and tell you a bit about our first project that we launched, our pilot project. And so who we really are. So that's a green energy team here in Copenhagen. Our real main mission is to promote sustainable energy development and now also looking at fleet electrification. So moving towards more sustainable solutions when it comes to energy. But we also have aligned our work with the UNDP overall mission and really our ITM vision is to create smart facilities, to build local capacity and also inspire movement. And that's what we're really trying to complete in our day-to-day work. And just a bit more about our unit. So, and what does that smart facilities really mean? So here you can kind of see those four quadrants that all together form the sum of our smart facility model. And besides smart energy, that's focus of today and electric vehicles, we also look at smart connectivity. So it's all about IT services and making sure that all the country teams can work 24/7. That's also smart security. It's not only the IT security, but also physical security through the CCTV cameras and solar street lamps. But also we have over the last few years worked a lot on Internet of Things and really gathering those data from the operations that then help to drive the decision-making process. But again, today, mostly focus on electric vehicles and also that vehicle grid integration that I will tell you a bit more about. But here, let's start with a quick poll just to see who have come today to the seminar. So yeah, we really wanted to just find out how familiar you are with the e-solutions, because obviously, depending where you come from, you may have already electric vehicles, or you may be planning to acquire the first electric vehicle in the country office. So just really want to see what's the share of. All right, so it seems that most of you are relatively new, so that's perfect. So we really have prepared the right presentation to give you kind of brief intro, both on the technical side, but also to see what's the approach for implementing e-mobility solutions. All right, thank you. That really helped me, and I think I can move forward. And I'd really like to start with this quite famous image that our comparison that's being given in many presentations. And this is really showing how fast is the transition and how fast that can happen. So on the left side, you have an image from New York back in 1900. And on the right side, same street 13 years later. And what's the difference? Obviously, you can see on the left side, that's mostly or only one vehicle there, and we still see that courses are mostly used, while on the right side, I think there should be still one horse there, but we have already moved to combustion engine vehicles. And today we are at a time when we have to make another big leap forward, moving from those internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles to really kind of get away from the fossil fuel use and come to more sustainable solution. And we are really now here in 1900 again. But then this is one of the very few slides about the technical slides, but it's really important that from the very beginning we understand the difference between the different type of electric vehicles that are out there. And the first of them more commonly heard is the hybrid vehicles or hybrid electric vehicles. But it should be known that it still relies on gas engine vehicle, gas engine. And there's only a small electric engine inside that being charged by that gas engine or when the car is braking. So it's still mostly relying on the fossil fuels, although it's more efficient than the normal combustion engine vehicles. And they are relatively widespread already. But the next one is plugged-in hybrid electric vehicle, which is already it has a much larger electric engine and also battery capacity. So that's already relatively good for like inner city movement. Usually it can drive like 50 kilometers on the battery, and then for longer trips, obviously you can use the gas engine, and also you can just use petrol or diesel fuel for those longer trips. So it's already a better combination. And obviously, what's the ultimate goal is to move to a complete electric vehicles, or so-called battery electric vehicles. So no more fossil fuels there, purely relying on an electric supply, either from your national grid or from solar panels, depending on what type of power supply you have. So yeah, I think it's clear for everyone that we need electric vehicles and we need to make this transition. But then it's just not about electric vehicles themselves. So also the question arises here, what is e-mobility really? What does it mean? And again, it's a new transition. We are moving to new technology, and just it's more than that. It also requires to completely rethink the standards and regulations, how we promote this transition. It's also about the economics, understanding so how much savings actually those electric vehicles can bring us. It's also about training and educating EV owners on the usage of new vehicles, because still driving and charging, it's a very different thing. And obviously that CO2 footprint, because the ultimate goal is to achieve the sustainable development goals, and we really need to make sure that actually we are bringing in a clean solution here. And obviously energy markets, not least important, because energy prices or electricity prices are much more volatile than fuel prices. It may be very cheap electricity at night and very expensive in the evening, in the peak hours. So again, need to have that kind of thinking of when and how we charge the vehicle. So really much more to kind of learn when it comes to mobility. But also have to kill potentially wrong perceptions, and EVs are not at all completely emission free. It really depends on how you charge the vehicle, and it's really suggested that EVs are fueled by green renewable energy. And obviously if the office has solar panels, there's this opportunity to provide that clean power. Or if the electricity grid is mostly the power mostly comes from hydro resources, for example, then again it's relatively clean grid. So again, more renewables are there in the grid, cleaner will be that fuel supply for e-mobility. And at the center, you see that highlighted area, which is VGI, or that stands for Vehicle Grid Integration. And that's really important to a part of that e-mobility concept. So we can always integrate this and make sure that the vehicle is charged smoothly, and when and where we need that to be charged. So that VGI, or vehicle grid integration, again, probably a new concept to most of you, but still very important as we are moving into this transition. And have to maybe distinguish here between two main type of chargings also, because normally there could be unidirectional charging. So pretty much you connect your vehicle to the charging station, and all the power comes from the electricity grid. But also there are already big steps forward to implement bidirectional charging. And what does that mean? That's in the image shown with the red arrows, that actually the car has the battery capacity, and you can use it then to either charge the building, for example, during the grid outage, or if for economic reasons, for example, that car can be discharged and that power is sent back to the grid for receiving some revenue for that. So there are these multiple steps and dimensions of vehicle grid integration that we are kind of all working towards. And yeah, just also remembering that electric vehicle, bringing in electric vehicle in an office, in a country, in your city, it's not just a single vehicle, but it's really, it has to serve as a showcase in the kind of that infrastructure needed for this project, and kind of expanding e-mobility really kind of spills over like your neighborhood, even the region. So there comes a lot of change with introducing electric vehicles. And one more final bit more technical slide is on those kind of pathways towards a fully flexible bidirectional charging, that we kind of see the future of how the electric vehicles will operate together with that national grid. And there you can see there are those 4 VGI levels from 0 to 3. And so obviously everything starts with 0. That's the simplest option that we actually have seen in multiple places, where you can think of an EV charger as your mobile phone charger. That's a box installed, and whenever you connect it or plug it in, it just charges. But again, it doesn't have any additional functionality or any, let's say, smartness in it. So it just does its primary job, charges the vehicle. However, already now, there's a good potential, and we really recommend to go for VGI1 or V1G, which is the smart charging. And that's kind of what I mentioned before about controlling the charging time, because again, the types may be more cheaper at the nighttime, and definitely you want it to charge when electricity is cheap. But also you may have that excess solar power available during the day. So if the vehicle is just sitting there, let's charge when you have free solar. And also load balancing, because think of multiple electric vehicles like all charging at the same time, that also can overload the building itself, like the electric circuits. So that smart charging capability that also kind of we can trying to introduce and recommend really is part of that vehicle grid integration, and kind of as we move forward. All right, and now time for another question. Just, yeah, I really wanted to see how you...
Just coming.
What would be the answers to the next one?
Here you go.
Yeah, so this one is about the barriers, and really would love to see also the answers on the EV implementation in your country at this stage. So what are the main barriers? All right, from the answers, I see that lack of charging infrastructure. Yeah, that's probably one of the main concerns, that range anxiety, what happens if you can't charge a vehicle anywhere else but within your office? And it seems to be dominating the answers. And lack of funding. All right, perfect. Thank you everyone who participated. It just gives me a bit of idea also what's happening. So yeah, let me maybe address a few of those questions through my next few slides. And yeah, so here we are really on introducing our approach for implementing electric vehicle solutions. So we've been implementing solar energy solutions since 2014, and those last 8 years really has given us quite a bit of experience on how to kind of develop end-to-end or work on end-to-end project development. And so far, we really kind of following the 7-step green energy solution process, which is also recognized as a best practice by United Nations Sustainable Development Group for solar implementation. And as you can see, we have quite a few solar projects already operational, being installed as we speak, and also in the procurement phase. So there's quite a bit of experience, and we really wanted to rely on that and also adapt the 7-step methodology for our immobility solutions. And yeah, please let me tell you more about how does that work. So step 1 is where what we call like a vehicle utilization and assessment. And basically that is a site survey assessment, looking at anything from the fleet information, how you currently use the combustion engine vehicles, how often, how many miles have been driven, also the grid information, how reliable is the power supply, whether it comes from solar, what are the energy sources, local market availability, equally important. We'll talk more about that. And also if you have a solar PV system, that's a big benefit already. And we see more and more offices are installing those solar PV systems. And also parking space, obviously, because both you want to make it as a showcase, but it has to be a protected and safe area for the e-vehicle. So really collecting all this data through our online application, or we call green energy preliminary site survey, which is kind of very user-friendly to collect all the answers. And we also have done our homework. We have quite a large database on all the suppliers of the potential suppliers of electric vehicles in different countries. The same applies to electric vehicle charging stations. And with that having that information, as in step one, we also try to kind of share this questionnaire with local dealers, because it's really important to see who is actually ready to provide those electric vehicles. And then we see that questionnaire has become actually an important part of the process to really kind of initiate that communication with local dealers and kind of check their readiness to provide vehicles when needed. And when we have all this information about the market, about the site itself, we can move to the step two. And this is kind of really important milestone, because this is a document that we are preparing that includes both technical, economic, and environmental analysis that you can then use as a decision-making tool to whether proceed and how to move on with e-mobility. So you'd have all the economic numbers needed to see how much investment is needed, payback time, and also annual savings, obviously. And for that, we also have developed some in-house tools that help us to get all the numbers required for the business case that we can then share with you. And if successful, then we can move to the step three, which is procurement. And this is more complicated stage, because obviously we have to look at the EVs themselves and also the charging equipment. When it comes to the EVs, so there are two main options. If the market is well developed, or there are, let's say, multiple suppliers, so we would probably recommend the local procurement for all the country teams, and we would support with like terms of reference and all the documentation just to kind of make sure we get the right solution. But there, if the market is not that solid, we also have some long-term agreements that we could go with for other locations. Although I have to say that the choice of electric vehicles through those LTAs may be limited. And on the charging station side, again, the same principle. If the market is developed, if there are some providers, definitely we recommend to go for local procurement. But also we are looking into having that international procurement just for those smart electric vehicle charging stations that we currently are working with. And finally, yeah, just mentioning that if the procurement is carried out with the LTAs, so again, ITM would be supporting you on this. So we have all the documentation for RFQs prepared from the previous projects. We also kind of facilitate what we call a bidders conference, where all the potential suppliers can meet and ask additional questions when it comes to choosing the EV model or even the charging station could be. And we also provide a technical evaluation of all the bids to make sure that all the offers are technically compliant and meet the country team's requirements. Again, with the electric vehicles, with the installation, that's relatively easy. The car has to arrive to the office, but it may not be that easy with the charging station. And that's why there's the step 4, which we call site survey, when the winning vendor we help to organize the site visit so they can get actual measurements of the distance between the, let's say, distribution board and the place where the electric vehicle will be installed, just to make sure that they have all the precise data for the installation of the charging station. And with that, with the step 5 is the design phase, then obviously we would review all the documentation and then technical drawings provided for the civil works really required for the installation of the charging station, just to make sure that there are no risks involved. And with that final design, we can finally move and bring all those pieces together and work on the installation of the charging station. And also what's really important is the training and capacity building, because again, electric vehicle is still a slightly different type of driving, and especially having the charging, having the monitoring, really training is a crucial part. And obviously capacity building comes with that. And finally, we work on a user acceptance test, and that would be an end of the commissioning of the system. And one more thing on the step 6, that's communication. Because obviously for many countries that could be the first, second, or just the first few electric vehicles. And again, we really kind of working on those projects to make them as a showcase, making sure that everything functions technically, but also this is a place then where others can come and then see how this work in practice, just to also let's say, kill some of those assumptions, including range anxiety. And then we provide various communication materials at this stage as needed. And finally, we have the step 7, which is post installation and commissioning. That's really operation and maintenance. And this is also very, very important part, because obviously you want to make sure that the vehicle functions well in next 1, 3, 5, 7 years. And the after sales service that we required through the procurement, we also now this is the time when we make sure that the local dealer is able to provide all those regular repair works, and there's good communication between the vehicle user and the local dealer. It's much easier at this stage with the charging stations. It's really reactive maintenance. If something happens, normally they're just like a plug and play solution that doesn't require additional maintenance, but still that warranty and following that, monitoring how the charging station performs is still important. And not only from the technical point of view, but also for the country offices to account for those savings. So through those smart charging stations, we really focus on the monitoring and collecting again those data, seeing how many kilowatt hours now being charged to the vehicle, so the country office can really see those economic savings moving away from a fossil fuel vehicle. And nevertheless, or say troubleshooting is, if needed, can also be provided at this stage. And the very last thing here is just a slide showing the kind of an example of a dashboard that's how much information you actually can get out of those smart charging stations, like different parameters of the vehicle use. All right, and then one more part we wanted to show you is the pilot project we had in Namibia. And so this actually started in 2016, so quite a long time ago, when we worked together with Nuwe is a company that actually provides those bi-directional chargers. And also we had Nissan involved in the project, providing 2 Nissan Leafs, and UNDP role was project coordination and management. And this was really a great case where we can just kind of bring all those parties together and implement those first 2 electric vehicles, and also test how they work on the ground, the range, and sort of understand the feasibility of e-mobility solutions. And just some actually funny example, or how the EVs were also used in, let's say, in the recent COVID, and the specific country office was kind of very concerned about their staff using public transport. So during the pandemic, for all the essential stuff, they actually used the electric vehicles to kind of basically bring them to the office and back home in a safe environment. And in this action, let's say, the country office also came up with this what they call spotted campaign, where given that now the EVs kind of drove much more, or were more often seen on the streets, everyone had a chance to kind of like tag them in, having a picture with them and the vehicle themselves. So actually that was quite a successful campaign. Again, kind of having that spillover or effect about electric vehicles being feasible in the given area. So yeah, and one of my final slides, obviously not everything is perfect. And as the polls showed already, the main concern indeed is the lack of charging infrastructure. So again, the car mostly can be charged only at the UN house. But again, most electric vehicles have to remember that it comes with the power socket that also can be charged in a home. But again, part of our work is to assess those risks and see what could be the solutions for that. And lack of technical support is the other big one that obviously, given it's a new technology, after sales service is really important. And in this case, for example, in Namibia's case, the maintenance could be done only if some spare parts were needed. That could be achieved only in South Africa. So yeah, there are still challenges we are working on. That's why we're also grateful that we have those opportunities to address these challenges. And this is just, a slide showing our partners that we have worked on together. So there are quite a few. Really, we are open to work with everyone because, again, our goal is to deploy those solutions and kind of share our experience that making sure your first electric vehicle project will be technically and economically feasible. And yeah, we won't show the video now. This is a quite cool video. I would really recommend to show. My colleague will share the link in the chat just to kind of, if you're interested, see a bit or learn a bit more about that Namibia's electric vehicle project that we had. And here's also time for one more question for you. So yeah, if I could ask to share the poll again. So yeah, really having this presentation, having a bit of hopefully idea of how the e-mobility solutions are implemented and can be implemented also in your office. So just to see how likely is that you attending the seminar today and your country team is going to install a solution. All right, so far I see quite a mix of answers. Perfect. Yeah, and I see also somewhat unlikely. Would love to see we'll have questions possible after this presentation. So we'd like to also see what are the main concerns and challenges. All right, I probably will say thanks for the results at this stage. And yeah, also that's all from my side. And yeah, on behalf of all my team, I would like to thanks for everyone who attended. And again, just please reach out to us. We are happy to help to get you your first electric vehicle. And thanks for that. I'll give word back to Luis.
Thank you, Peter. There was one last slide there. If you can project, please. Just to emphasize the different options available for the implementation of these high impact common services. So this webinar is one of those ways where you can learn about these efficiencies going on. You could also request a specific webinar for your UNCT or regionally if you want to have more specific questions answered about your country context. The other way is, as I mentioned, on the BOSS online platform. So they're all tagged with highly recommended, so you can easily identify them, especially during the annual review. There are practice notes, and I'll put the link in a second, and we'll also follow up with an email, not only of the recording of this webinar, but also of the practice note that you can access if you want to learn more, if you want to share it with other members of your team. The fourth is what we mentioned about seed and pilot implementation. So if you want to do it, in some cases, there's funding available, like in the solar solutions, as well as in the disability inclusion. And there is also that, hand-holding, so to speak, where you already have the experts that know how to do it, that they've done it in so many countries, and the learning curve is so much easier than if you would have to do this on your own. So with that, I'll open up the floor for questions. I know we had one question. But this is the time that you can raise your hand also and ask the question directly if you wish. You can interact as well with the experts. We still have about 15-20 minutes. So I'll read the first question from Choni. It's saying, is there any support for energy auditing being provided remotely?
Yes, I think I'll take that question, Luis. I should say, yes, there is support for doing energy audit, but I should state that, this is a separate service offered by ITM, and it covers more than just the EVs, not directly related to EVs only, as it were, but it's a bit broader. And the idea at the end of the day, normally we come up with recommendations for energy efficiency mechanisms that can be put in place within the office. And optionally, many country offices also take advantage of that to come to have us compile a business case for solar installation as well. So the energy audit goes beyond just the EVs, and it's a service that is available for sure with these possible end results, either energy efficiency mechanisms and or business case for solar.
Perfect. Thank you, Shatiso. Yeah, and at this point, both Shatiso and Paula are most welcome to also jump in with any of the questions. There is one other question, also Choni was asking. This question may not be directly related to the presentation, but since we have the green energy expert on board, Peter, I'm asking it. UNDP globally has an ambitious moonshot commitment to reduce our corporate carbon footprint by 25% by 2025 and 50% by 2030. Is there any way we can, I think that the question may have gotten cut off there, but is there any way, just a second, any way how the office can monitor the carbon footprint and also to measure if the office is carbon neutral? So the question again is if there is any way that the office can monitor the carbon footprint and measure if it's carbon neutral according to also the moonshot commitments from UNDP. So over to
let me give it the first shot, and maybe Peter or Paula can complement this. First of all, I mean, yes, we have deployed what we call the power consumption monitoring devices, which we have put across in many country offices. And that's the purpose really, to kind of monitor the consumption. And then we can translate that into how much CO2 it relates to. And also that also brings in the use of the generators in the country offices. We are also deploying another gadget called the grid analyzer, which we use quite a lot for generators as well. So we can use that now to translate it into CO2 that is being produced by the country office. And when we do our business cases, we can actually give you the CO2 savings that you can cut off in your operations to say, if you put solar, then it will take care of so much CO2 savings per annum, so many tons per annum and so forth. So yes, we can do that using the IoT devices that we are deploying out in the country offices. And in any office, I should say, it doesn't have to be a UN office as it were, but it's in any office that's willing, we deploy these devices.
Thank you, Shatiso. There was one other question about the link for the video. We had put it on the chat, but we also shared it again, so feel free to reach out for it there. Again, if you want to raise your hand, don't be shy. Great opportunity. In the meantime, we still have a few minutes. I can ask a few of the questions that we covered in the other webinar as well. If you could speak to the countries where you have implemented the solution already, maybe some of the main barriers as well. I know you covered that in the webinar as well. And I'll stop there. And I have a few other if nobody else asks from the audience as well. Over to you.
Hi everyone. This is Paula Martinez, also from the Green Energy team. So just to respond to your question, Luis, Diego, right now we are working on immobility with different UNDP country offices, since UNDP has launched an internal initiative to fund immobility projects. So right now we're working with around 19, 20 country offices, and we are expecting to work with many more in the next couple of weeks. And right now I would say the main barriers that we have faced are mainly the local market readiness. So in some of these countries, it is challenging to find the right vehicle that meets the country office's expectation and needs. And for this purpose, that's why we are pre-assessing, like Peter was mentioning before, through a market research and contacting those suppliers to make sure that we don't have any procurement challenges in the future, and everything is ready to be implemented. As Peter also mentioned before, in those cases where the market is not ready and there are no many options that align with the country office's expectation and needs, we can always go through the LTA that UNDP holds. However, the only challenge would be that this LTA only offers one vehicle make and model in some specific locations. And this is also to answer one of the questions that were in the chat about what is the type of vehicle that is this LTA offers. So right now, as I was saying, it's a sedan. It's one specific vehicle make and model in specific locations. And right now, there are no possibilities for SUVs through LTA. Hopefully in the future, we will hold more agreements with different suppliers and different vehicle make and models. But right now, this is the offer, let's say. But yeah, in those cases where the interest is in an SUV, we really recommend doing local procurement if the market is solid and ready.
Great, thank you, Paula. And I think you answered two of the questions in the chat, both about the SUV and which are the vehicles recommended for procurement. A couple of other questions in the chat. One of them is just a comment about sharing the PowerPoint. Yes, we can also share the PowerPoint in a follow-up email with the recording and the resource, the practice note resource. And there is one other question, who to contact for the energy auditing support and to get advice on the carbon footprint monitoring process. Perhaps the colleagues can also share that on the chat.
Yeah, I'm sure we can share the email. Yeah.
Yeah, I think from our side, we will share the ITM Green Energy team email. So feel free to reach out to us. We can also organize a kickoff meeting. We can go more in detail, not only about the e-mobility services, but also about energy audits and so on. And maybe there we can discuss further the possibilities for your UN country team.
Great, thank you. Colleagues, if there are any other questions that we may have missed in the chat, I think we've addressed it from what I see, and there aren't any hands raised or any other questions in the question box as well. Perhaps since we are coming to a close, just some of the barriers that you have seen, the biggest barriers for implementation, and how you've seen some of the UNCTs creatively address those.
So I think I can take this one, Paula, again. So I think as I was mentioning before, the main barrier would be the lack of EV local suppliers, which, as I mentioned before, could be addressed through pre-assessing the market research to see what are the possibilities, trying, if not possible, to conduct a local procurement process because of lack of market readiness, try to conduct the request through the LTA that UNDP holds or any other existing LTAs that the UN country teams could piggyback on. Another big barrier that was also mentioned before was the lack of charging infrastructure in this type of context. And for this one, it is very important that whenever we are doing the pre-assessment and the business case, we analyze all these conditions and all these driving needs and expectations of the country team to make sure that the vehicle we are selecting is going to be able to operate in those conditions where there is lack of charging infrastructure, meaning that we will be choosing an electric vehicle with a higher battery capacity, with a higher driving range, or even we will be choosing a plug-in hybrid vehicle to make sure that there is not this driving anxiety, and we will have a backup option with the diesel engine in case we are running out of electricity. So all these kind of different aspects we will be pre-assessing during our 7-step process, just to make sure that the lack of charging infrastructure won't impact the driving of the country team. So I would say these are the two main barriers. I don't know if my colleague Peter or Shatiso has anything else to add.
Yeah, I think I can add actually one, just an example that also a bit relies on the power supply. For example, if it's an off-grid site or very, very unreliable power supply, so that most likely that the power comes from the generators. And then that may be also another challenge, because obviously it's not only we want to move from one type of vehicle to another, to an electric vehicle, but we want to make sure that power, that the charging, that the fuel now is much cleaner. And if the country office heavily relies on the generator use, maybe also that's not the best solution. And perhaps starting with installing a solar PV system with battery storage to making that power supply cleaner, and then moving with electric vehicles would be the suggested strategy. Thank you.
Yes, maybe just a quick comment from my side as well. One thing is maybe Peter flashed the vision that we have, at least from where we are sitting, and I think it's in line with the UN in general, is really to be kind of a pace setter. You know, we work in very difficult countries, and I think this is where we are needed most to actually showcase some of these things that, I mean, it can be done in those places. So if the UN is not the first, who is going to be the first? You know, we normally want to take the lead and also, you know, bring these things to places that maybe under normal circumstances, people wouldn't think about those places. So we really need to kind of take that initiative. And as Peter is saying, you know, people may have the challenge of like, we are using diesel generators. We cannot charge an EV with a diesel generator. And for sure, that should not be, it should not happen for sure. But, you know, when you put a small solar panel kind of installation to be able to charge using that, then that can really help us like bring these things where it may seem to be impossible or even difficult. So the UN has got that kind of opportunity, if we are to say, when it comes to EVs, to really take these things out there and show that it works.
Great. Thank you all three for the feedback. And just piggybacking on that, if there isn't local suppliers or local vendors, is there any workaround importing, or is it recommended not to do that and just to wait till the market is ready? Over to you.
I think definitely it is a possibility that can be explored, and we could always launch international procurement processes and explore the possibilities of importing vehicles. So definitely it's something that could be explored.
Thank you, Paula. As we do come to a close, if there is any other question, I see one on the chat. It's saying, when do we anticipate to have a global LTA for hybrid, electric, and/or electric vehicles for countries' offices to piggyback on?
So maybe I would say in the case of UNDP right now, as I said, we have only one LTA in place that was very recently built. And I know our colleagues from procurement are working very hard on getting new LTAs. It is, of course, let's say a timely process and like a complicated one, but I know there are many efforts put on this, and hopefully very soon we will be having new opportunities in terms of LTA for electric vehicles.
Great, thank you. And if I understand correctly, if UNDP has the LTA already, if your entity has signed the mutual recognition, they should be able to piggyback on that LTA. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's something that we can look at, Mom, depending on what entity you're on, but there's about 22 entities that have signed the mutual recognition. So it should be able to do that. So with that, coming to an end, if there's any last words or comments that you would like to make before we wrap up, any last words of encouragement or advice or next steps, over to you.
at least from my side, yeah, everything starts with the business case. And even if you think you're not ready or don't have the knowledge, just really reach out, and we would love to help, at least to kind of build that knowledge around electric vehicles and understand how to move forward and what's still maybe missing. Thank you.
Paula Martinez.
From my side, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We will be sharing the presentation, the video, and any other information that we have discussed here. And yeah, looking forward to collaborating with you.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we look forward to any collaboration, like we are the green team. I mean, if you have something around that subject, be it PV, be it electric vehicles, energy efficiency, and so forth, feel free to reach out. I guess, Luis, do we share our email address as well, so people can reach out anytime? We can discuss and help each other to build a sustainable world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the three of you and the whole green energy team that has been so supportive in availing the services and products that you have worked on for so long and have created such strong proof of concept. So with that, colleagues, we'll close the webinar. Feel free to reach out. We'll follow up, as we said, with the email, the recording, and other resources. Thank you for participating and joining, and let us know how we did. I posted the survey link on the chat box. I'll also post it on that email. So have a great day and weekend up ahead. And thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.